Page 25, we are graphing from equations. You aren't doing any sort of a box where you figure out the coordinates. We're going straight from here to here. We'll do 4 of these together, and on the next page we'll do most of those together too. Starting with number 1, y equals 2x minus 5. Let's first identify the slope. The slope is here. The y-intercept is here. For the slope for number 1 is 2. The y-intercept is negative 5. Given that, all we need is the slope and the y-intercept, and we can go ahead and graph the line. We'll start with the y-intercept because that gives us an exact point, negative 5. So let's look on the y and go down to negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here. The slope is 2. Remember, think of that as 2 over 1. You'll go up to, 2 over 1, just like that. That is the slope of 2. Now I have 2 dots. All you need to draw a line is 2 dots. If you want to be really accurate, it's nice to have more than 2 dots, but for this purposes, all we need is our 2 points, and that's all we get. There we go. That's y-intercept negative 5 with the slope of 2. Down to number 3, slope y-intercept. Our slope is negative 2/5. Our y-intercept is 1. Let's start with our y-intercept. We have a 1. We'll do our slope. It's negative 2/5. Since negative 2, we go down 2. 1, 2, and now over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here. Now we draw our line. See how the negative slope faces that way? Number 5. So there's no coefficient in front of the x. We know with algebra that if there's no number, it's understood it's a 1. So since we need a coefficient, we get a 1. Our slope is 1. The y-intercept is negative 3. We'll start with our y-intercept. Then our slope is 1. So think of it as 1 over 1, if that helps. I like slopes of 1. That just means it's every single corner. And there's our line. One more, number 6. Our slope, so that's a 1, right? So our slope is negative 1. That means we're going to have a negative slope. Our y-intercept is 4. Let's find that point. Negative 1. So think of that as negative 1 over 1. Anytime the slope is a whole number, just put it over 1, and then it's easier to plot those points. Let's go down 1 and over 1. We will draw our line. on number 4, notice there's no coefficient, there's no constant. If there's no constant, there's nothing at all. Well, what number means nothing? 0. So your y-intercept is 0. And when you go to plot that, it's going to be right there. That's the 0 on the y-line. On to 26. We'll do this page almost entirely together. This is a new concept to you, and I want to make sure we cover it. So I will take you through almost all of the problems. We are working with equations that are not already written in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And when we have that, we can very easily go from the equation to the line. When it's not written in that form, we can't go from the equation to the line. So what we have to do with the equation that is not already written in that form is move things around so that finally we're solving for y, and it's written in y-intercept form, or slope-intercept form. We'll solve these just like you solve any two-step equation, where we isolate the variable term and then we'll isolate the y. But we'll also have an x in it when we're finished. That's something you haven't done before. So that's why I want to do this with you. So let's get started with number 1. 5x plus 2y equals 12. Slope-intercept form is written y equals mx plus b. So we need y all by itself on this side. So we look at what we've got right now. Not only do we have a y, we've got a whole term with a coefficient. We've got the 2y. We also have 5x over here. So what we'll do first, the first thing we'll do is we're going to isolate the variable term with the y in it, because that's the one we're solving for. We've got to get rid of the 5x. Since it's positive, we'll do the opposite. This works the same way as any other algebraic equation that you've done. It just so happens to have two variables. So the opposite of positive 5x is negative 5x. So we will subtract 5x from both sides. That cancels out. So now we're left with 2y equals. Now look at what we've got. These two terms can't be added together. They're separate. So since it's the x term before the constant, I'm just going to go ahead and write them in that order. We've got negative 5x and a positive 12. There we go. So now we have solved for 2y. We're close. We need to solve for just y. Since right now we're multiplying y times 2, we'll do the opposite. The opposite of times 2 is divided by 2. We'll divide both sides by 2. And when we do that, watch carefully, this cancels out, and we get, watch carefully, we're going to do each term one at a time. We have negative 5x over 2 plus 12 over 2. So this is what we have now. Now we're going to rewrite that so it looks more like slope-intercept form. All we need to do is simplify it, really. So y is the same. We've got just the y by itself like we want, equals, and we are going to write this as a fraction. and then the variable. So we'll put -5/2 times x, just like that. Plus 12 divided by 2 is 6. See how that works? We just pulled this x away from the fraction and put it right here. Now, this is in slope-intercept form, and we can find our important pieces. The slope is -5/2. The intercept, the y-intercept is 6. Now you've done it. That's the first one. Congratulations. Now let's proceed to do 3 more together. Remember, we're solving for y, so we'll start by isolating the y term. We need to get rid of the positive 6x. We'll do that by subtracting 6x from both sides. Now, that's gone, and we're left with just 2y on this side. We've got these two terms that can't be added together. We'll do the x term first. -6x, +10, plus 10. So we mostly have this in slope-intercept form. The one thing we don't quite have is the y all by itself. We still have a times 2. This one's a little easier than that one. So the opposite of times 2 is divide by 2. So we divide both sides by 2. This cancels out and we're left with y on this side. Now we'll do each term separately. We've got -6x over 2 plus 10 over 2. Now we simplify these. Y equals, so -6 divided by 2 is -3 x plus 10 divided by 2 is 5. Y equals mx plus b. M is -3. Our b, slope, is 5. Make sure that the work on your paper matches with mine. All these steps are important, and you want to make sure you write down every single step. It's very simple to make a mistake if you don't write all the steps. Number 3, 4y minus 20, 4y minus 3x equals 20. Here's our y term. We've got a -3x or a -3x. Either way, the opposite is plus 3x. We will add 3x to both sides this time. We're left this side with just the 4y. On this side, we have the two terms. We'll do the x first. 3x plus 20. Now we have solved for 4y. The next step is to get just the y by itself. The opposite of times 4 is divide by 4. We divide both sides by 4. Now we have our y all by itself. That was our goal. And we'll write each of these terms separately. 3x divided by 4 plus 20 divided by 4. You can see this will become a whole number. This will stay a fraction. we're just going to pull this x away from the fraction. So we'll have y equals 3/4 x, see how you can do that? Plus 20 divided by 4 is 5. On to number 5. We've got, this time, a negative 2y. So we've got something more we'll need to do this time. So let's get the negative 2y by itself. That's how we'll start. We have a positive x with it. See, this is positive, this is negative, this is positive. We want to get rid of the x. The opposite of positive x is minus x. So we subtract x from both sides. Now we're left with, that's gone, negative 2y equals, here we go, negative x plus 6. To get rid of the negative, I'm just going to divide the whole thing by negative 2. That's an easy way to handle it. So I want to get rid of the times negative 2. So I will divide by negative 2, like that. And so negative 2y divided by negative 2 is positive y. So see, now you've got your positive y. That took care of it. We'll spread these out. We've got negative x over negative 2 plus positive 6 over negative 2. This will be a whole number. This will be a fraction. Y equals, now you could leave this as x over 2. It's now positive because you have 2 negatives. Or to put it in more precisely the slope-intercept form, we know this is a 1. We'll write 1/2 x. You pull the x away. This is going to be negative, so I could do plus negative 3, or I'm going to do minus 3. The slope is 1/2. The y-intercept is negative 3. I want to see how you do on 4 and 6. I'll have your mom send me a picture of these after you've done them so I know how you did, and just to kind of get an idea of your progress. This one is the easiest of all of them because you already have y by itself. So basically you just need to get rid of the x and put it over here, so you'll subtract both sides by x, and then you'll have y equals. You don't have to do the division like you did on the other steps because you don't have a coefficient. On number 6, you will subtract x from both sides to get rid of that, and then you'll solve for 3y. And to get rid of that 3, you'll divide the whole thing by 3. This one is very similar. These two are very similar. So if you're not sure about anything, look at this one. Don't forget you have 2 left on this page and then 2 left on this page.